U.S. grocery bills are rising again. And for many households, the basics such as eggs, dairy, and produce are becoming noticeably more expensive. According to recent reporting by the Wall Street Journal and expert studies, the upward pressure on food prices in America is being driven by a confluence of supply chain stresses, weather-related crop damage, and ongoing ripple effects from past disruptions. In the past few months, food price inflation has begun to accelerate. Per a December 2024 report, grocery prices climbed 1.8% year over year, the fastest pace in more than a year. Analysts note that the headline number hides sharper increases in specific lines. Eggs, heavily impacted by avian flu outbreaks, soared by over 30% in some cases. Weather shocks are a major culprit. Extreme drought, heat waves, and heavy rainfall events have hit key U.S. crop regions like California and Arizona, as well as major global producing regions. One study, led by the Barcelona Supercomputing Center, found that vegetable prices in California and Arizona rose by around 80% year-on-year in November 2022 after severe drought. These climate-linked disruptions are now feeding into global commodity markets and domestic grocery chains alike. Meanwhile, global food price indices have recently reached multi-year highs. On the supply chain front, lingering effects from the pandemic, labor shortages, transportation bottlenecks, and higher input costs, including fertilizer, energy, and packaging, continue to push up costs. For example, higher feed and fertilizer costs mean livestock producers face greater pressure, and those costs ultimately get passed to the consumer. Added to the mix, the holiday baking season, strong consumer demand, and constrained food processing capacity. The result? Even as headline inflation rates moderate, everyday grocery essentials are seeing sharper price increases. Shoppers are responding, switching to store brands, buying less expensive cuts of meat, or skipping premium produce items. What does this mean for U.S. families? First, budget stress is rising. Grocery costs are becoming a more significant portion of household spending, especially for lower-income households that already devote a larger share of income to food. As one recent media story put it, the phenomenon is one of the clearest and most visible ways climate change and supply chain disruption are being felt by everyday Americans. Second, inflation expectations matter. Rising grocery prices can feed into broader inflation psychology, which in turn affects wage demands, consumer spending, and central bank policy decisions. Global food price spikes complicate inflation control efforts by the Federal Reserve and other central banks. From a sector perspective, retailers and food manufacturers are squeezed from both ends. Input costs are rising, and consumers are pushing back on higher shelf prices. Some firms are absorbing costs to maintain market share. Others are passing much of them on, which raises questions about margin expansion, so-called greedflation or markup growth. The result is a complex balancing act between cost pressures, pricing strategy, and consumer sentiment. Looking ahead, industry analysts caution that unless weather-linked crop failures ease and supply chain bottlenecks subside, grocery inflation may remain elevated well into 2025. While food price growth might moderate from its current pace, the baseline is higher, meaning that even normal increases this year still feel sharp to many households. Practically, shoppers should expect continued sticker shock for staples like dairy, eggs, fresh produce, and meat. The story is clear. The next time you check out at the grocery store and feel the pain of rising prices, it isn't just about inflation in general. There are deeper structural factors at work. Climate-driven crop setbacks, global supply chain shifts, and higher input costs are combining to make food more expensive and sustained for American consumers. To wrap up, U.S. grocery price inflation is climbing again, with households paying more for basics like eggs, dairy, and produce. Supply chain disruptions, weather-related crop losses, and higher input costs are the main drivers. For viewers, the message is simple but important. This isn't a flash spike, it's a persistent squeeze on the grocery budget with meaningful implications for how we eat, shop, and spend in the year ahead.